Oh, great. I have a few minutes. I'm gonna see who I can meet on the Real Life app for a quick conversation.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Oh, that's some cool posters you got there.
Yeah, I love Tim Burton movies. Are you a fan of Tim Burton?
Sorry, who?
Yeah, Tim Burton, the director?
Oh, Tim Burton.
Yeah, Tim Burton.
Burton.
Listen to these names. They're all pronounced with the same sound. Let's see if you can identify what that sound is.
Your host for this evening, Steve Martin.
Please welcome James Patterson and President Bill Clinton.
Please say hello to Michael Keaton.
Notice that the names Martin, Clinton, and Keaton all have something in common. It's this T vowel N combination at the end. In fact, it's one of the most difficult sounds in American English. Most languages don't have a sound like this, so many learners cannot even perceive it when they hear it. Let's take the name Keaton, for example. Now, if a British person were to say this, they would say Keaton, probably. You might also hear someone say Keaton. But in most American English accents, we will make this sound that you observed before. Keaton, Keaton. Now, if this seems pretty difficult, don't worry. There's just 3 simple steps that you need to follow to effectively make the sound. So first of all, we're going to remove the vowel between the T and the N. So pretend that it wasn't even there. So what happens next is that the T sound is not released. What do I mean by this? Normally when we make a T sound, our tongue goes up and then it flicks down in order to release the air and make that burst of the t, t, t. However, when we make this noise, what we do is we simply don't let our tongue drop so that the tongue stays up and it blocks the air. This is also called a stop T. All right, so what we get is ki-n, ki-n. See that my tongue stays up? Many Americans, myself included, often get so good at making the sound in the back of our throat that we can just keep our tongue down altogether. So I could also say this by doing ki-n, ki-n. See, my tongue doesn't even need to go up at that point. But for you, in trying to start to make the sound, you might want to try it with your tongue up like that. Next, step 2.5, subscribe to our channel. Okay, I'm just kidding, but I'm kind of not. Because if you, like many learners out there, are feeling lost and insecure, you're not sure what to do next, and what you really want to be is natural and confident when you speak English, well, you found exactly the right channel to do that. So why don't you join over 300,000 learners around the world who are discovering a more fun and effective way to learn English by hitting that subscribe button and the bell down below, and that way you won't miss a single new lesson like this one. And finally, we can move on to step 3, which is after we have kept our tongue up, so we're not releasing the air and we're able to create that stop T. What's going to happen then is when we make that N sound, we're forcing the air to actually pass through our nose. So it becomes ki-n, ki-n. I'm making that N sound by letting the air pass through my nose. So why don't you try? Ki-n, ki-n. Now, it doesn't really matter if you have 1 vowel or 2 vowels between that T and N sound. Even if we have 2, we'll usually cut them both out. Let's take, for example, the word mountain. Now that's probably how you would usually say it, right? Mountain, with that full T sound. But if you want to produce it with this sound, or you want to understand how most Americans would say it, then we need to use that stop T sound again, right? So watch me say it. Mountain, mountain. Now you try. All right, now let's practice with some more. Don't worry about the meaning of these words. In fact, you could even close your eyes and just listen to how I'm saying them so that you're not depending too much on the visuals of being used to reading and maybe trying to reproduce it like you would in your native language. Just really try to listen in to the sound and how I'm saying them. Gotten, gotten. Carton, carton. Fountain, fountain. Written, written. And of course, you also need to be used to hearing these in full sentences. So let's practice with some example sentences. They climbed the mountain. I've forgotten to do that. Close the curtains, please. People have a lot of tea in Britain. I'm certain he's right. And you know, when you learn something new like this, so that you can remember it and so that you can start doing it effectively, it's not enough just to watch a video, because your brain doesn't work that way. You have to actually put it into practice. But many learners have told me that they just don't have anyone to practice their English with. So we decided to go ahead and solve that by creating the Real Life app for you. Let's take a look at what one of our app users, Shirley, said about it. This app is what I need to improve my speaking skills. Now I can speak English at a touch of a button. It's a totally refreshing app in this field. In addition to that, I can sharpen my listening skills with podcasts with transcriptions. Love it. And just like Shirley, you can have absolutely fascinating conversations with people from all around the world about your passions, about your hobbies, and you can put into practice this advanced pronunciation tactic that you're learning today. Or one of the best ways to learn is by teaching it. So why not go on the app and teach someone else how to make this sound? And a lot of you tell me that you just don't have much money to invest in your English learning. So we've made this a free resource that you can use to improve your English speaking. So give it a go. You can download it now by clicking up here or down in the description below, or you can simply search for Real Life English in your favorite app store.
I couldn't say it.
You couldn't say or you wouldn't say?
I just couldn't say. I'm...
Couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't.
What did he say?
All right, again, depending on the region where you're at and the accent that's used there, you can also find the sound occur in words that end with an NT contraction. Now, this would often happen in the negative form of auxiliary verbs like wouldn't, couldn't, or didn't. So in these words before the NT, we have a D. Now, commonly in American English, we would pronounce this D as an American D, which is a quick flick of the tongue. It's very similar to the R in Latin languages like Spanish and Portuguese. So I could say it like didn't, wouldn't, couldn't, shouldn't. However, you might also find that some people pronounce this with the sound that we've been working on today by making that D into a stop consonant. So if we do that, that's going to change the sound a little bit. So instead, we will have didn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, couldn't. All right, so now practice with me with some sentences. So he didn't go there yesterday. He couldn't do it. You shouldn't speak too much. They wouldn't like to travel now. All right, so now that you know about the sound, you will certainly be able to better understand native speakers when you're listening to your favorite TV series or even when you get into a conversation. Now, it is important to note that you do not need to speak like this. You can, if you want, you can put in the hard effort to really learn to produce that sound in an effortless way, and that's great if that's your goal, but it is a lot of work. So what's really important though is that you are able to identify and understand it when you are listening to native speakers. And I want to hear from you. What sounds do you find are the most difficult in English to produce or to understand when you hear them? Why don't you let us know down in the comments below, and that way we can make a lesson for you explaining it just like we have today. Aw, yeah. All right, this lesson would not be complete without testing everything that you've learned today. So today's test will have two parts. Let's start off by testing your listening. How well were you listening in today's lesson? So what you're going to do is you're going to listen closely to me saying some sentences. However, we're not going to show the full sentence on screen. You're going to have to fill in the blanks. Each of these blanks will be filled with one word that has the sound that we have been practicing today. And of course, you can pause and repeat after me if you want to. All right, you ready? I've gotten to the top of the mountain. I've gotten to the top of the mountain. I've forgotten to close the curtains. I've forgotten to close the curtains. There's a beautiful fountain in the garden. There's a beautiful fountain in the garden. I need to buy 2 cartons of milk and a carton of juice. I need to buy 2 cartons of milk and a carton of juice. This sentence is short but important. This sentence is short but important. Stephen King has written many stories that frightened me. Stephen King has written many stories that frightened me. Pardon me, is there any bank around? Pardon me, is there any bank around? I shouldn't stop reading books. I shouldn't stop reading books. She couldn't make dinner. She couldn't make dinner. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I wouldn't do that if I were you. All right, how'd you do? Are you ready for part 2 of the test? Okay, so now we're going to test your speaking. So we will show you 5 sentences and you need to do your best to say it with that sound. Then you'll hear me say the sentence and you can compare how you did compared to how I said it. For extra points, you could also record yourself so you can actually play back yourself saying it next to mine, and that will give you a better comparison. It could have been Michael Keaton or Bill Clinton. Didn't you see the fountain in Manhattan? I'm certain we wouldn't go to Britain. It wouldn't frighten me to get bitten by a kitten. My project requires cotton, carton, and buttons. Nice work. So out of the 15 questions, how many did you get? Why don't you share your score with other learners down in the comments below? So aside from improving your pronunciation and your listening skills, another super important aspect of getting advanced English speaking is being able to increase your vocabulary. Now, what if I told you that you could learn 1,000 or more words by just learning one simple trick? Well, you can. If you're curious, then you should definitely check out this lesson next. Let's watch a clip from that. If you have ever felt stuck in your English learning progress as an intermediate learner, well, today's one trick can help you to dramatically change the way that you speak English forever. Now, word formation can help you to really increase your vocabulary and even sound more advanced when you speak. We created this lesson because we had many requests from learners like you to make more on the topic.